Hello everybody, welcome to the video today. Welcome to the signal box. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and we'll crack on with today's video. So, before we get some trains running, just a few little bits and pieces I've been fiddling about this morning with. So it's taken quite a while to get the layout up and operational this morning, because I did set out on a mission this morning and I ended up getting stuck into some other pieces and sidetracked from different things I should be doing. And just like the real railway, you end up going on a mission to do something, and this A, B and C and D come up, and you end up having to deal with those before you can finish the actual project you intended to do. So basically this morning I had some reusable ideas. So the first one is over in the factory here. If we look at that little hut there, which I'll just illuminate, there we go, that little yardman's hut there, it's a what is it now, it's like a slate stone built sort of, it's supposed to be a plate layer's hut, I think, of some sort. I think it was a coal office originally, but that little building there I've put there now, that lives there. That's sort of the yard foreman's office. So obviously the in and out deliveries for the brewery obviously get checked by their foreman, and all the little bits and pieces that administration wise goes on from that little building there. Now that little building there, believe it or not, it's quite sentimental. That's probably one of the first kits I put together. It's a wheels kit, and that was on my first ever model railway when I was about 13, 14. So it's been in my possession for a long time. It's been sitting in the bits and pieces bag, and I've never actually used it or put it out. So it's been on quite a few layouts, but it's quite an old building, so that's where it's going to now find its home, there in the brewery delivery yard there, which I think looks much better. And what else? If we come over here, we've got this building here. Looking at it from the top, this building in that shot there. This is an old Hornby Railways kit from the 1980s. It's the old Hornby post office building, and again it started life as the Hornby post office. And again, I built this building that you see before your eyes here. I built this when I was about 14 years old. I'm 50 now, and it's a long time ago, but it's always been in my possession, always been intact. And I thought it's a nice building, but it just needs a makeover, because the side walls and the outside walls, they were supposed to be white, factory white, when it was made in Margate. But over the years, the amount of sunlight and dust and grime just turned it a nasty sort of off-white yellow. So I thought what I'd do was repaint it and repurpose it. So what I've done, I've repainted it, and I've added some window boxes on the top windows there. I've repainted the outside. I've put some vegetation and some creeping rose vines on the front there. I've added some hedges on the front there as well. And I've repainted the outside walls as well, like a stony colour as well. I'm going to put in some still photographs after the shot so that you can see it a bit more better. I can't pick it up and show you, unfortunately, because I've glued it in place this morning. So it's going to be living here now in the high street. Originally, the building that sat on the area of land where that is now, I've moved. I'll show you that in a minute. But yeah, if we come out the shop there a little bit, I've bent my creaking knees this morning. Yeah, that's where it lives. I've given it a little bit of a generous backyard space as well there. So for any deliveries coming in, I've given it a generous little entrance area there for delivery vans to come in for the post office. It's actually become a country post office is what it is. Country post office come general store, like you'd have in a typical country village. So that's all now glued in place. I've added a boundary fence there between the railwayman's cottage there and the post office next door. I've got that boundary fence I've put in this morning. I've got to paint that, and the apple tree has been replanted in the corner there. I've added a little bit of railings outside the railwayman's house, giving them a little bit of boundary space there. at the back door area. Well, there's two there. There's a back door there and a back door there. There's actually one around the back as well, but I've given that railing a little bit of area to live there. Coming over here this morning, I've relocated these buildings. If you remember this house that used to be over there, I've put that house that lives there. It looks much more at home there because it's paired up with those type of houses, so it matches the sort of area in terms of character. So I've put that there, and next to it we've put the little garage there, which I think looks okay there. Underneath the base of the garage, I'm going to fill that area in and tidy it up a little bit, but I think loosely that's where I'm going to put those two buildings. That's where they're going to live. There used to be a Hornby railwayman's cottage that used to live there. You've seen it in the previous videos, but I think that looks better there. It matches those houses symmetrically, I think, almost. So I like that there. That's going to live there, I think. So our high street scene is coming on quite a treat. And what I've done, I've simply put in some little rose vines on the side there, some on the back. If we can come around there and have a look. Again, after this shot, I'll put in some still photographs, and you can see the model as it was 2 days ago when it was drying off paint wise and it was all finished. But you'll see it much more clearly. But sadly, I can't pick this up by hand and show you, so I'm going to have to chuck in the still photos after this little clip here. So first up, we've got this Bachmann weathered 9F with the TPO, Travelling Post Office, a couple of Govs behind it, general utility vans, and a full brake on the back. Simmering away on shed, we've got a BR standard class 5 on shed, that'll be out in a moment. And then in the bay platform over there, there's Daisy. Superb stuff. Okay, so we've got the 9F on shed now. We've just moved it back slightly underneath the coaling stage to refill, because the tender's a little bit empty and the fire wants sorting out a little bit. So we'll let the crew do that, and whilst we let them to their own devices, we'll come over here and we'll bring the standard 5 out of shed. Just wait there for the outlet shunt. Very cautiously easing that rake back into the platform. Okay, stopped by the water crane. Okay, so in the platform over here, I've got the standard 5 on a newspaper train. Just a very short work in there, but that's newspapers. It's hauling there in those GUVs, GUV, general utility vans. So that's the newspaper train waiting in the platform there. Just got to wait for the timing and for the correct departure. In the meantime, we'll ask the signalman, can he accept it? And it's a newspaper train, so it will be a 4. Line clear the home signal, thank you very much. Right, we'll send him. And she's away. Train out of section. Okay, so I've managed to solve a little bit of a problem. I'm quite happy now because I've got something running around the layout that I never thought I'd see run again. And it's my 4MT tank. Here it comes. I'm just giving it a little bit of a test run at the moment. I'll explain to you why. Right, basically the problem I had with this tank engine was that it wasn't basically going around any of my curves on my first track, whereas it should really technically go around second, even first radius, but it's not meant to go around first radius curves, which is the first radius curve system of any set track. And first radius curves can be a no-no for some engines. This is one of them. But normally second and third radius curves, which is what I've got on this layout, it should be a problem. But the outside track, which is this one here, it really was not going around this at all. It was very, very slow, and I had to whack the controller all the way up just to get it to move a little bit around there. So as you can see, this is a vast improvement. And I'll let it come round once more and I'll show you what I've done. Because what I was going to do with this locomotive, believe it or not, I offered it to Rails of Sheffield as a second-hand item, because I bought this second-hand from eBay. I think I paid about £97, if I'm not wrong, my memory serves me. I might be a pence or two out, but it was just a couple of quid under £100. And I'll stop it there and I'll show you actually what was wrong with this loco. What I thought was correct wasn't. I'll bring the camera down here. Okay, so this is my lovely 4MT, and the thing is with this locomotive, it's such a beast. It really is. It's a lovely beautiful looking tank engine, and I was really gutted that I had to sort of part company with this, because I thought, well, rather than having a very expensive paperweight, it's not much good if it doesn't run properly. But then I thought, you know what, I'll see what Rails of Sheffield have to say. But before that happened, what I did, I checked all the back-to-back on this engine. I checked obviously all the driving wheels, all 3 driving wheels, all 6 wheels. I checked the lubrication, I checked the pickups, the rims, the back edges, you name it, everything on this loco mechanically. I went round. I even gave it a little bit more generous lubrication on the com rods, on the linkage, and obviously on the motion here. I've basically lubed it up slightly over the top, but not loads, but just a little drop, literally drop more than what's needed, to see if that would cure the problem. And obviously it didn't. So I scratched my head and I thought, what is wrong with this? And the thing is with this locomotive, as anyone will testify, if you've got one of these or thinking about getting one, they're nice to look at, but they are an absolute pig to maintain. To get the chassis separated from this body is a nightmare. I've got the instructions for this, and there's basically loads of little internal screws that you've got to undo, 1, 2, 3, 4 somewhere underneath, but I'm not going to go into detail. But it's not exactly a Hornby or a Lima model to disassemble and maintain. As mentioned, most Hornby locos and the majority of Lima locos, they're a joy to take apart and maintain periodically. But this thing, this is a day's work, if anything, and it's such a fragile but yet fine piece of machinery in modelling form. It's just really shake your hands moment when I try and maintain this. So the easiest way I've found is to, if I just carefully put it on its side, the easiest way I found out of doing things is basically take off, there's a screw underneath this brake rigging here, there's a screw there, and the second screw up past those 2 brass contacts, that one there, and the first 2, that one and that one, undo them, and then get a cocktail stick and gently lift up the keeper plate. Don't obviously snap it, but gently lift it up, it will take it, and then quickly lob some hobby lube on the gear with a cocktail stick, and then put everything back and screw it down, rather than taking off this whole keeper plate. Because if you do, there's 2 fine wires that are associated with each brass pickup on each side. You're not careful, they will come adrift nicely, and then you'll really be in a lot of bother. So we don't want that. So I'm very cautious about maintaining it. But the big question is, how did I get it to run a little bit better or solve the problem? Believe it or not, I thought I checked all the back-to-back on it, which I did. This is nice and sloppy. This is nice and sloppy. When I say slop, You don't want too much slop when it comes to loco axles on a loco. You want them to move with enough slop, literally left and right, lateral movement, to negotiate point work and track. And obviously the back-to-back should be correct, but you don't want them over sloppy because they'll be derailing. What I found out was this particular axle here, if you can see that, hang on, I'll bring the camera in, it's easy with my camera here, or is it not? No, I'll do it this way. Okay, that's better. If you can see that raised bump in the center between that axle there's a raised plastic hump. You can see that there. That basically gives clearance for the gear. That's the gear drive that is attached to the worm and the motor inside up in the chassis. That drives everything, that one axle basically. What I found out was that axle was slightly tight. It needed just pushing out one side of the wheel so it maintained a generous back-to-back gauge. When I say generous back-to-back, it's not out of gauge, but it was slightly tight. My little back-to-back brass gauge that fits in between the axle and tells me exactly that is the exact working tolerance of the back-to-back gauge for a 00 scale loco. That was a little bit tight in putting that in between the wheels, the back edges. So obviously I got a little screwdriver and just took one side of the wheels and very gently between the chassis and the wheel applied a tiny little bit of pressure, just a very small amount of pressure with the screwdriver, and gently half an inch, half a hair's worth of spacing, and then hey presto, I put it on the track, and that's what you see now. It wasn't doing that before, it wasn't even going around the curve, so I'm much more happy that I think I've cracked the problem. And most of all, she's not going nowhere. That's it. She's part of the furniture now. She won't ever be going to anybody else, so I think I've solved the problem. Having said that though, this particular locomotive is very sensitive to curves. So obviously if I had 4th radius curves or flexi track curves with a nice gentle gradient into a curve piece, it would be even better. But for ready to run set track, I think that's about as good as we're going to get it. But I'm very happy today, so that now leaves me to start focusing on adding some detail to this loco, i.e. putting some headlamps on the front, a footplate crew, and yeah, really sort of giving it a bit of TLC. Anyway, that's that. That's really running well now, that standard 4MT. It's definitely found its feet and it seems to be a lot happier now. Can't tell you how happy I am that this loco is operational properly once again. It just goes to show, because I was actually reading an article, as you do, online about just the different modelling forums about back-to-back issues and certain backman locos that just struggle around curves. And there was one chap that had an issue, admittedly, that he had laid newish track on a layout that had been down for quite a while, but was planning on ripping it all up and building a bigger layout. And the actual issue actually was his track. Sometimes it's the track, sometimes it is the back-to-back. But you just got to persevere. And in my case, I finally got there in the end, and I'm so bloody glad that I didn't give it to Rouse of Sheffield, because, like I said, they wanted to give me £30 for this 4MT coming round now. £30 for this. And they probably would have sold it like 4 or 5 times the amount as they do. Nothing against Rouse of Sheffield, and obviously they've got to make a business profit, but there's no way I'm parting with that for 30 quid. And then they wanted me to send it to their shop, which will be, what, another 15, 20 pounds postage. I think they can they can keep their offer and I'll keep my 4MT. How about that? And away she goes. Track number 2, we've got the little Hornby N2 in Great Northern Green with a little couple of Gresley bogies behind it. Yeah, that's it now, we're cooking with gas. Okay, so before I close the video today, I want to show you this book. I'm not sure if you've seen it or not, the first time I'm showing it. But this is a book, I forget now if I've shown you this or not, but it's a really great book that I sent off for online. I think I got it from Amazon, this one. But it is basically a very short little publication by Clive Groom, the late Clive Groom, who passed away in February this year, age 93. A gentleman that I would love to have met and had a pint with. A true Rowerman's Rowerman. Clive eventually finished up in number 3 Link at Nine Elms Shed and stayed there until from 1954 to 1967 when steam finally was axed on the southern region in Great Britain. So this is an extract of some of his working logs, that he basically, all the engines that he worked on different turns and different driving and firing turns, and all the exploits of those drama-filled days on the Southern right towards the end. So as fitting, I'm going to do something now that I know that Mr. Groom would have definitely enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy this one too. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and I will see you next time in another episode of the Signal Box. Okay, so on Shed, doing our little special run. Here's a Merchant Navy class, of course. These are the big engines, the big Bully Pacifics that Clive used to fire and drive back in the day. So we'll bring that off Shed now, I think. It's got the Weymouth head codes on the front, which the fireman would have put on there. We'll come over to around here with the camera so we can just pick it up. There she goes, off to the station to pick up that train in the platform, easing her down. Yep, we have those. Okay, now it's building up to a crescendo of atmosphere at the station. The people have got on the train. The guard is waiting for the signal to change to green. The fireman has made up the fire. The driver has set the engine's reverser. The pressure is up. The water in the glass is full. The fire doors are shut. Any moment now, we're just waiting for the off. The driver's looking back now, waiting for the guard to wave his green flag. He does so. Fireman checks the signal, gives the driver a green. A quick pop on the whistle, regulator in the first valve, and she's away. And away she went. Heading up the main line all the way down to Weymouth.